All right, guys. Hey, welcome to our call. We have a pretty awesome call today, I think. We have Carolyn, Brandy, and I recently ran a diamond, like get your butt to diamond or whatever, something group. And we had 2 diamonds come out of it, and one of them is Manny, and one is Kathryn. Kathryn was actually diamond before, but kind of dropped rank because of certain reasons, but we'll let her get into that. But she went back. She busted butt during this group and got back to diamond. So I'm actually not going to take too much time, chit-chatting. I'm going to let Kathryn take over. And I just want to introduce her. She joined in February of last year, and she went emerald actually her first month, so that was really good. She went diamond in like 100 days, so it only took her just a little bit over 3 months to go diamond, so she really busted butt to get there. She was a success starter. She earned her summit ticket because she was Success Club the first 3 months in the business. She actually had 6 straight months in Success Club, and then she had a stroke. So, and she's really young, you guys. So she didn't let that hold her back either. She overcame that, and she started. She missed Success Club that month, but ever since has hit it ever since then. So she's a complete rock star. She's married to an awesome guy, an awesome coach, also named Jason. And has 2 kids, so she does this, married, 2 kids. She's a nurse, so she works full time, and like she's awesome. So Kathryn, I'm just gonna let you take over.
Okay, thank you.
So how did you get to diamond so fast?
All right, so sorry. So like Sherry said, I got to diamond rather quickly as a new coach. I was in this really awesome push to diamond group run by some of the top coaches, not unlike the group that we were all in. It was really awesome, but there were more people that didn't hit diamond than did. So what it really came down to was being willing to do the work. I got out of my own way and just made it happen. I knew I wanted to get to diamond, and I literally was not going to stop until I hit diamond. I am going to just talk real quick about, so I did lose diamond. I held it for, from that month, which was like end of May, beginning of June, and I held it right up until September. I was 27 and I had a small blood clot and had a stroke. I thought it was migraines. I thought it was a migraine. I actually didn't even go to the ER until the next morning. I went to the urgent care. They just thought it was migraine, sent me on my way. I went to my doctor, and here was a stroke. So for that month, I missed Success Club and lost rank. But I hopped right back in. So I'm just going to share a few tips that helped me get there and ultimately helped me get back to diamond. So first off, if you write these down and you don't apply them, you're going to get nowhere. So just want to start off by saying knowledge is not power, it's potential power. Action is power. So my number 1 tip to get to diamond is to talk to more people. If you want to move your business forward, the answer is always to talk to more people. If you want to make more money, talk to more people. If you want to rank advance, talk to more people. If you want to quit your job and be a full-time coach, talk to more people. Here's the kicker here. When you go through your friends list to invite people, you can't prejudge them. I know we're all guilty of it. We all go through and we're like, they're already in good shape. This isn't for them. She's got 3 kids. She's really busy. This isn't for them. All right. So give them the opportunity to say no. We can't make the decision for people. This was where a huge shift in my mindset happened during that group. They told me to start treating recruiting new coaches like recruiting to a college football team. Everyone wants to be recruited, right? You have an opportunity in your hands that people could really benefit from. So start thinking of coaching as a gift, as something really awesome, because really, who wouldn't want this job? Seriously. My next tip is ask everyone who's joining your challenge group. Anyone who's getting ready to purchase a challenge pack is already investing in their fitness. So once I get their email and their choice of Shakeology flavor to send out that Coach Mobile enrollment, I just send them like a quick, oh, hey, before I send this over to your email, there are 2 different options for enrollment. The second one is just silly. I use those exact words. The second option is just silly, but I'll let you decide for yourself. Then I go on to tell them about becoming a discount coach, but I don't use the words discount coach. I just say that you can be a coach, but you don't actually have to coach people unless you feel inspired to. The reason I don't do that is because I don't want that label to follow them. What if after the challenge group they feel really inspired to coach, but they're like, no, I told Kathryn I was just a discount coach. So I've had quite a few people start out as so-called discount coaches who are now working the business. So just don't label them. All right, next tip. When you're talking to people, that they can sense when you're desperate or you're trying to just make a sale. They can also sense that you're just going through the motions and following a script, even from the computer. So what I do is before I ever send out my first invite, I just spend 5 to 10 minutes doing personal development. I get my head in the right place and then message people. It kind of builds up that mental armor for all those no's so that I can stick through it until I get to that one yes, you know? All right, so quick show of hands, how many people on here are introverts? Anybody? Okay, so most of you. Okay, well, we know that Beachbody pushes us outside of our comfort zones, but that doesn't mean that your people that you're meant to help are there yet. So think of how you would be if you saw something that you were interested pop up in your newsfeed. Would you comment and say, oh yeah, me, I'm in? No. Probably not. Way too public, right? But what you might do is like that post and then go Google what it is that we're talking about. So my last tip is to reach out to your likes, not just the comments on your posts. When I started doing this, number 1, it gave me so many more people to talk to. And number 2, I've actually helped more people that liked my posts than people that commented, because the people that liked my posts were the people that could relate to me. They were the people just like me. I just keep it simple when I'm messaging them, like, hey, haven't seen you in forever. How's life? Your kids are beautiful, whatever. Then say, I saw you liked, say, my coaching post, or I saw you liked my getting ready for summer post. Did you want more info about it? Almost always they said yes. And the rare few that didn't would say something like, oh, I was just liking it because you're doing so awesome. You look amazing. Keep up the great work. But either way, the conversation was started, because what it comes down to, I know you've probably heard it before, is we are relationship people, not sales people. So either way, you're building a relationship and talking to more people. So my last thing is, if you want to improve something, you have to track it. So for me, over the past 2 months I've been tracking with Teamzy. That's TEAMZY.com. It has changed everything for me. So if you haven't tried it yet, I would definitely give it a shot. It comes like they have a 30-day free trial for it where you don't even have to put in your credit card information. You put in what income level you want, and it will tell you how many people you need to talk to each day, how many people you need to invite to reach that level of income. So that's what I started doing over the past few months, since the group pretty much started, and I got back to Diamond just tracking.
Your invites too, right, Kathryn?
Yeah, now they just upgraded it that you can track which ones you're, like, it'll give you an invite goal, but you can always track whether they bought a challenge pack, signed up with a coaching opportunity, what you invited them to. You can track all of your sales and schedule follow-ups in there so you don't forget, because too many people fall through the cracks when you're not following up with them.
Yes.
The fortune is in the follow-up, right?
Teamzy is huge for follow-ups.
All right, that's pretty much all I got, guys.
Okay, that was awesome.
That was really good.
Teamzy is
Really
a
good.
huge tip, you guys. If you haven't checked it out yet, I highly recommend checking it out. I'm using it. And I can see how, I haven't dove completely into it yet, but I could absolutely see how it's a complete game changer.
When you get that information on paper and you actually see, because you can think about inviting people all week long and you might actually convince yourself that you've been busy. But when you look on paper and you're like, I've invited 4 people this week. How did that happen? It's really illuminating. And one last thing I wanted to say is how awesome is Kathryn, right? And Jason. And you guys really haven't met Jason yet. And what I'm saying is, they came from being a free customer. They were given to someone in our group just as a free customer, like we all get so many of. And look what happened.
So that's another tip. Reach out to your free customers.
And when you're when you're talking to new people, they'll explain to them about how important it is to get Success Club and get the Emerald, because you don't know which free customers they're not getting and someone else is getting. And it could be the next Kathryn or whatever. So it happens all the time. I mean, when the diamonds are talking and Star Diamonds, the stories come out like, I can't believe this person came from a free customer, and now that's $1 million a month in volume for me. I'm being paid on. So it happens so often that it's worth pointing out to people to give them that incentive at the beginning, give them real life examples to be like, you've got to get yourself at least to this level ASAP, so that you're not missing out on these free opportunities. Right. And we all want to build relationships. We're all looking for people to do that, where they're willing to give us people to do that with, and we can really expand our reach. But we've got to get to that first rung of the ladder. So that's where Kathryn came from, and I love it.
Yeah, I liked your tip about talking to likes too, because a lot of people do not reach out to just the likes. They reach out to the comments only, and that is a huge mistake, because like you said, people are introverted and they are not going to comment on a public post so other people will know, hey, I'm actually might be interested in this, so I'll just like it, but I'm not going to comment.
Yeah,
that's absolutely a great tip. So,
yeah, I agree.
All right, Carolyn.
All right, so Manny, how do you pronounce your last name? Is it Sliverira? Sliverira, okay. He is a coach. He's not my personally sponsored coach, but he is my coach's coach, right? I think that's Karina, Becky, and then you.
Yeah.
He's been married for 2.5 years, and they just got their first dog, Gideon. He works full-time as a pediatric occupational therapist in an outpatient autism clinic. And he signed up in October of 2015 and has hit Success Club either 5 or 10 every single month since then.
Wow.
Emerald 15 days. That's awesome. Ruby 4 months. And Diamond in 5.5 months, which is awesome. So Manny, take it away.
Sure. Thanks, Carolyn. So I signed up in October after watching Becky, who is my personally sponsored, she's my upline, who was actually my rehab director at my first job, for about 2.5 years, convincing myself that it was like all a scam and a scheme, and it was never going to be something I was going to do, but like secretly watching her and wishing I was doing it, but just never convincing myself that I could. So finally I kind of just sent her a text and was like, you know what, screw it, let's do it, I'm in. And kind of from that moment on, I was really lucky. I had a really good, warm market of friends, family, coworkers who kind of dove in with me. And I think in my first 3 weeks, I think I signed 7 coaches, primarily discount coaches who all were coming in and just starting their journey, being supportive. So in October, I think I hit Success Club 12. Which was basically 10 days. And then I hit 10 in November. And then I kind of started to drop from there. So I really blew through that warm market and was spending a lot of time watching trainings, all those things, but not really doing anything. And then in January, I was like, all right, it's the beginning of the year. Everyone's got New Year's resolutions. This is going to be a cakewalk. Like, I'm going to take off. It's going to be a great month. And on January 31st, some mystery person purchased something that put me at Success Club 5 at like 11:59 p.m. And it literally just limped over the line. And it was like the worst, most embarrassing feeling I had ever felt, because I was like, this is the end. And so I was in a really bad way. I was thinking about just becoming a discount coach, really kind of collapsing in a lot of ways with the whole coaching thing. And then finally decided I needed to take some steps to turn it around. So since then, starting in February, there have been kind of 6 core steps that I've been really pushing myself on to help turn things around. And those are what really helped, in addition with that Push to Diamond group, to push me over the edge and really reinforce that these were the smart steps to take. So my first thing that I had to really push myself on was getting past my fear of reaching out to people. And I did that through focusing on my why. So I was really concerned about annoying people or people getting all turned off by the whole MLM thing or thinking that I was selling. And I really had to reinforce that, as I could see, because I had not done almost any personal invites in the first 3 or 4 months of my business. I had just literally gotten locked off attraction marketing. And so I was seeing that that wasn't going to really be sustainable. And so I kind of had to go through and write down my whys again and look at my credit card statements to be like, there's a good reason why we need to really make this happen. We need to send out some invites. And that really helped to start things blossoming. And what I realized was that I was actually getting a lot of positive feedback from people. Even if it was a no, it was a, hey, thanks for reaching out. I really like what you're doing. You're doing great things. And that really helped to kind of reinforce that notion. And now I don't feel bad about reaching out to people, because it's like Kathryn said, you're giving them the opportunity to say no or the opportunity to say yes. And 9 times out of 10, I get 100% positive feedback about the fact that I reached out, even if they don't end up being interested in the group at that time. So you really have to stop wondering and guessing and creating what people's reactions are going to be, and you need to just go out there and be prepared to manage whatever the reaction is, which is probably going to be positive anyway. The other thing, so number 2, was switching from being a learner to being a doer. And this was a big thing for me. I was spending hours and hours watching trainings. I watched trainings from every top coach, every coach in my downline, my upline, everywhere. I've listened to podcasts, everything. I had notebooks full of notes, which was great, but I wasn't doing anything with it. And that was a big thing. I had all this information, but if I wasn't using it, I wasn't going to get anywhere. So I had to really start going through and limiting the amount of time that I was spending doing the trainings, making sure that they were impactful and useful, and then making sure that they had things that I could pull out and actually use in my business. And that has, one, saved me a lot of time in general of doing things outside of work, and it's made my time more productive. I'm not just using that time and saying I'm being productive, and at the end I have no invites, I have a bunch of information, and I have no sales for the month. And that was a really big thing. The third thing I had to do was I had to work on getting consistent. I was really good at making excuses because I'm working 40 to 60 hours a week at my full-time job. And so I would say, well, today was a long day. It's just not the day that I'm going to do invites. I'll do them tomorrow. And then tomorrow became the next day, and it just kept going. Sometimes I would post on Facebook, 5 times that day. The next day I'd post once or not at all. And it really wasn't showing people that I was serious about what I was doing, even though I was doing the work for my own fitness and nutrition and doing some of the background work for the business. I wasn't showing people that I was doing that. And that was the really important thing that I didn't get. If I wasn't being consistent, no one was going to know. It's not like people were standing outside my windows watching me work out every day and prep my meals. And if they were, I probably don't want them as customers, so that's really creepy. But so I had to really focus on that consistency and making sure that I was sharing that every single day. The fourth thing, and this was a really big one as well, is deciding to utilize that duplication process versus trying to create everything on my own. So I was spending a lot of time coming up with really fun ideas. I was using all the time to come up with them, and I had no time to execute them. So it was really great that I had these fun, creative ideas, but then I couldn't get the plans in place to get groups started on time or anything like that. So again, I'm sitting there spinning my wheels, all this information, all these ideas, but no execution. So when I finally tapped into the resources that we had, whether it be through Carolyn's page or through Becky's page or through a Google search, or you can find stuff everywhere, and finally went through and started to grab some really good pieces to lay groundwork for groups, that really helped, again, save some time and focus on the important things like doing those one-to-one invites and talking to people. And then, it gave me a base to adapt for my own stuff from there, from what I was finding from other coaches. Kind of tying into that, the fifth thing, I used to get, and probably a lot of you guys, actually, let's raise our hands. How many people have spent like hours crafting a Facebook post, and then you're like, oh my God, this is the best Facebook post ever, and you post it and nobody even reacts to it at all? Yeah, exactly. So I feel like Facebook and the posts are they're like catnip. You get so sucked into having like the sexiest, most fun, most engaging post. And again, it's another time waste. You're not actually focusing on the important things. So I'm not sending my invites. I'm not doing personal development, but I have one really sweet post with a photo that I photoshopped, I crafted, I researched all these things to talk about, and my mom, my wife, and my neighbor liked it, and that was pretty much it. And again, I have no sales, I have no contacts, nothing. So I'm just spinning my wheels. And my last tip was using personal development. So this was one of those things that even when I started coaching and I finally dove in, that first weekend after I signed up, it was actually Super Saturday. And one of the coaches on our downline reached out to me and she was like, hey, you should come. It's going to be so fun. And I made up an excuse not to go because I still wasn't convinced that this wasn't like a really weird culty thing. So I skipped the first Super Saturday. I skipped our first 2 team calls. And one thing that I really skipped out on was personal development. And that was for months because it was another thing that I was convinced it was somebody just spoon-feeding me BS. I didn't need to read self-help books in order for somebody to tell me how to post on Facebook and tell people to lose weight. And it was a real thing that I just didn't understand what the benefit of it was. And since I've started doing personal development, not only has it helped as far as my engagement with people who are looking to work with me as customers, it's completely changed the way that I am in my full-time job. It's completely changed the way that I interact in my marriage and my relationships with my family. And it's completely changed the perception that people have of me. I actually have a family member who I was recently with on vacation, and she said, I don't know what you've been doing, but wow, you really got your shit together. And I was like, I've been reading. It's the greatest thing. It was like, I thought self-help books were for crazy people, but they're really actually like incredibly useful. And I think that people underestimate the power of, personal development. It's not just for your business. It's for you as a person in so many ways, psychologically, emotionally, socially. And that's where I really dug into personal development for myself. And that has helped me change my perspective on what my role is as a coach. Because when I first got into this, I kind of had that notion, especially after those first 2 big months, like, oh, this will be awesome. I'm going to be a Beachbody millionaire in like 6 or 7 months, and this is going to be great. And I was so focused on driving the sale and all of that stuff that when it came time to actually be accountable to those people in, the first or second month after they purchased, I didn't know what to do because I wasn't prepared for that. And so that's really helped to shape me as far as what my role as a coach and as a supporter is for these people. So not only is it helping me to kind of understand the business aspect of that, but then what's the follow-up and what's the support and what's my role in that besides getting them hooked up with the program? Because if I sell 60 challenge packs and at the end of the year, all 60 of my customers have canceled because they didn't succeed because I was a terrible coach, then it's all for nothing.
Right.
And that's what that really helped me to understand, which was a really big thing. So that is pretty much, those are my 6 tips.
Yeah,
That was awesome.
awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That was just great info. And I have to say too, and I know Jamie Thompson, she's one of my coaches. She talks about how diamond is a mindset. You have to decide that you're going to be diamond, and you just do the things that you need to do to get there. And it's not like you don't know what to do. we have these diamond groups. Well, if you haven't been in our diamond group, you don't know. But we give you the information. You can Google the information. You can go on YouTube and find the information. There's no excuse.
There's so much noise out there. Like, there's so much Beachbody noise. There's so much training. There's so much just stuff that is, like Manny said, it is so easy just to get sucked into doing hours of training, but you're not implementing any of it. So you have to get down. You have to just stick to the basic stuff. If you want to get to diamond, it is simple. You have to invite, you have to talk to a lot of people.
Yep.
You have to do your personal development and share your story. That's it. Those 4 things is all you have to do. You don't have to watch hours of training every day. That's not the way to get to diamond. Like Manny said, he was very good in training. That's just not the way to do it. As a sign of a leader, like watching all this training on Facebook and YouTube and stuff because you just want to learn and soak up everything, all the knowledge that you can, it's definitely a sign of a leader, but sometimes we have to pull that leader by the ears and be like, okay, that's enough training. Go do something now. That's
where you do it like you said, Manny.
Here and don't worry about the Beachbody noise because there's so much of it.
Yep.
So.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I read a quote by Eric Worre this week that I really liked. It said, if you want to wonder what's wrong with America, he said, we spent $71.4 billion on the lottery tickets and $14.1 billion on books. So there you go.
Yeah.
Where are people's priorities at? Where are they?
Sad?
How are they betting on their future? By educating themselves with all the great material we have, or playing a lottery?
Yeah.
Right. So does anybody have any questions? We'll open it up. We have some time yet, right?
Yep, we have a few minutes for questions. If anybody has questions for Manny or Kathryn.
If anyone needs to go, they can, but for anyone that has questions.
Nope.
Nothing?
All
Come
right.
on, Heather, you look like you're going to have a question.
Okay, quick question.
Yeah.
Oh, go, Rachel.
So I keep hearing, everybody say, reach out to a lot of people, reach out to a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
So give me numbers. How many people are you, on average, are you reaching out to on a daily basis?
Well, first of all, Rachel, let me ask you this. Are you talking about reaching out to people for the purposes of making a challenge pack sale, or are you reaching out to them about growing a business?
Probably both.
Both.
All right.
Okay,
Both.
Kathryn, why don't you answer that first, and then Manny, you can.
Okay, so in general, when I was like pushing really hard for diamond both times, I would honestly say that I sent out between like at least 25 messages a day. I mean, granted, they didn't all lead to that. Like, I let things flow naturally. If it doesn't get to that point, I don't force it because that's just weird. But I would make sure I was inviting, I would say at least 5 to 10 people out of those 25 to say 50 people I was talking to a day. I would mass invite in the morning, or not invite, but mass send messages like in the morning, and then they would slowly trickle in with responses all throughout the day. And some conversations got to that point, some didn't. But you just have to make sure you take the opportunity when it does come up. Like if they say, oh, you're so good, like what are you doing? Dive right into it with an invite. Like, hey, you should do it with me. I've got a group coming up in 2 weeks or whatever. Just dive right into it.
Yeah.
Okay.
How about you, Manny? How many people did you talk to a day?
So when I was doing the group, I was following pretty strictly the daily 4. Some days I was going a little bit bigger over the 4. Since then, just because for the sake of sanity, Monday through Wednesday I work pretty much 10 to 10 and a half hours a day. So they're not great days for me for reaching out to people or having the energy to actually have a conversation. So I've been working on blitzing a lot more. So I make it my goal to do about 60 to 80 a week.
Awesome.
And usually I had said in one of the past calls, I feel like a lot of the people that I talk to I don't know if it's just our generation or things like that. Some of them are just general conversations. Some of them I go directly for a little bit more of a passive invite because I feel like people just want to have that question sometimes. So it always depends. I've tried to work a little bit more on just general conversation starting more recently. So sometimes I might have closer to 100 conversations a week. But in general, I try to shoot to blitz 3 to 4 days a week with at least 20 people.
Okay, and then are you opening up these conversations by just a blanket statement of, hey, how are you? I haven't talked to you in a while. What's new? And then do the forming questions, or do you just directly say, hey, I've got a challenge group starting on May 2nd. I think you'd be great at it.
Go ahead, Kathryn.
Okay, so for me, I always, like, before I ever start a conversation with somebody, I go through and I make sure I like and comment on their stuff and then start the conversation that way. So say I just saw a friend ran a 5K, I would like and comment on that, like, way to go, something like that. And then I would message them and be like, hey, that's so awesome. You just completed your first 5K. Congratulations. And then, like, she would say, like, okay, so this is like an actual conversation that happened. So she would say back to me, yeah, I see you're doing really awesome things with your fitness or something like that. And just carry it on from there.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep. Yep. So you're commenting and then you're deepening the conversation by a private message.
Yes.
Got it.
So for me, it kind of depends on the person. With people that I interact with more frequently, whether it be in like general life or who I interact with more socially online, sometimes I'll just reach out and say, hey, I'm sure you've noticed I've been doing fitness groups, that kind of thing. I don't know if you'd be interested at all, but do you mind if I send you some information to take a look at and just kind of do it that way? But that always depends specifically on the person. If it's somebody who I haven't talked to in like 10 years, that's not going to be my route because then that's going to feel weird to people. But if it's people I interact with, whether it be once every few months, once every few weeks, every few days, I always try to read. More recently, I've been going back and hitting more of like my high school list. So I'm looking at people that I probably haven't talked to in anywhere to around 10 years at this point. And I'm starting more general conversations. Hey, I saw that you just started a new job, or, we're living back in the same area again, that kind of thing, and forming from there. But it always depends. I'm kind of a skeptic, and if somebody reached out to me out of the blue and were like, hey, I saw that you ran a 5K, how's it going? I'd be like, dude, what are you trying to sell me? Give me the numbers and get the hell out of my face. And so I feel like you really have to read the people that you're contacting, because some people, that's going to work really well and they want to have that forming experience, and some people are going to get that initial message and be like, I'm good, I know what you're doing, I can see that you're a Beachbody coach. So you really have to study those people before you send out messages.
Sometimes you'll have a bunch of people or one person commenting. If you kind of notice they're starting to like a lot of your posts, like
Yes.
like 3 or 4 like in a week or something, hey, this person is stalking me for a reason. Like, they're liking my stuff for a reason, and those people you better be reaching out to like immediately.
Manny, I appreciated what you said about how people, even when you invite them, even when they say no, it's a positive feedback you're getting, and what that means is you're inviting them correctly. You're not giving off that weird salesy vibe. So apparently whatever you're doing is right, because that's the way it should be. You're inviting someone to take a look at something, whether it's to solve a financial problem, a health problem, or both. You're just simply making an invitation. You're not coming across like a salesman. We should all work to hone that, and that's a great barometer to see if you're doing it correctly, because if you're getting those kinds of responses back, like negative or confrontational, or they get nervous, like, what are you trying to sell me? You're doing it wrong. There's no way everyone else is replying incorrectly, but you're doing it right. So that's a good indicator that you need to work on that. So you got to pay attention to things like that. So that's awesome. Apparently and obviously you have it down.
Thank you. And I think that's where that's where you should be focusing on your content, is what am I promoting with my content and my page? Am I promoting Beachbody, or am I promoting health, wellness?
Yeah.
Am I promoting having a healthy relationship with food, my body? And that's where people don't get rubbed the wrong way, because
Right.
you're reaching out to them to provide them a benefit.
Right.
You're not reaching out to provide them a product necessarily.
Right. Yep, absolutely.
Do you guys have any tips for adding more people to your network?
Basically, I go through how do I describe it? Maybe I should screen share to do this. Let me see. Will it let me screen share? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so I go to find friends here.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see this people you may know thing? If we have 5 or more mutual friends, I send that person a friend request.
Wow.
Because basically it's not going to seem weird when you do send that friend request because you already have people in common. Also here, places that I work, I would click on it and search and see if anybody that comes up I recognize. Mutual friends, I have done that before too. Gone through my friends list and be like, okay, I know this person. Same thing with my high school. Let me see here.
So what might be like an opening conversation to somebody who just has mutual friends, but you don't necessarily know how?
I'm actually, when I send them a friend request, when they approve it, I send them a message and I just say, hey, thanks for accepting my friend request. I saw we have a ton of friends in common. Did you go to, say, Scranton High, if that's, like, if I added them from my high school, or did you work at regional, or your face looks familiar. Did you work at regional? Something along those lines. And I've never got, like, anybody being, like, creepy. Most people are, like, really excited when I send them a message. People, I think, want to be interacted with. That's why people go on Facebook. They're looking for that connection.
I do have to make a comment, and I don't know if you do this, Kathryn, but if you're doing what you do, like going through your friends list and seeing how many mutual friends you have, if it's a bunch of coaches, don't add them.
No. No.
I want to make that clear because I know a lot of people do that. So
yeah, don't do that. But also, when you send out those friend requests, if they don't approve them, make sure you're going in and canceling out those requests within a day or two, because you don't want to get locked into Facebook jail for sending too many requests.
Yep.
And what would you say is the maximum amount of friend requests you can give out a day without getting into trouble?
I've heard 10.
Yeah.
So I never send more than 10.
Yeah, I never do more than 5 just to stay safe. And then after the 5, I'll go back and cancel if they haven't accepted. I'll go back and cancel them out after a few days.
Yeah.
So, yep. And then joining groups is another way to add to your network that's free. Joining groups and building relationships in there.
Yeah, and like if you have hobbies or you look for groups that, like me, like I was in Blue Coast Drum and Bugle Corps. So, different drum and bugle corps websites, people that have, some kind of a commonality, you can go and just, even if it takes you a couple months to start talking with people and things like that, there's X amount of people that you didn't have before. So, just hobbies that you have, look for groups like that and start slowly expanding your network, with that. There's a bunch of different ways.
And then obviously your Facebook like pages. If you run advertising at all, that's all adding to your network. So every time you run an ad, you get in front of new people. So that's a huge way as well. But that's a whole nother call. So yeah, it's overwhelming. Facebook advertising. So alrighty. Well, I think we went long enough. What do you guys think?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. All right, guys. Thank you, Kathryn and Manny, so much for sharing today. It was totally awesome.
Thank you.
I hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see you all next week, hopefully.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.